Hi everyone. Hi, and to all our branch heads, RC heads, all our staff, and of course, all our dear leaders in Nigeria, and not only Nigeria. I'm looking at people from different parts of Africa. There are people are saying they're from Sierra Leone, I believe. All right. So again, ladies and gentlemen, our topic for tonight is about the duplication system of EdPlan 3.0. Okay, and I'll be discussing briefly about how we came up, how Dr. Ed, how the rest of the board of directors were able to come up with this plan or were able to come up with this innovation. All right. So let me start by sharing with you some slides, ladies and gentlemen. The thing is, we have to be prepared for the next digital or the next wave of digital transformation. Over the last 2 years, nearly 3 years now, the whole world was gripped by this pandemic, by this COVID-19. But, one thing that this COVID-19 did is that it has accelerated a lot of things. It has accelerated the advancement of technology. It has accelerated the way we do business, meaning, the way we do business now could have happened about 5 to 10 years from now. The way we maximize, different platforms like Zoom, like other meetings and everything, online meetings, we could have adopted to this 5 to 10 years from now. But since pandemic came, it accelerated everything. We learned how to, do everything via online, working from home, being able to maximize all these digital platforms so that we can have a continuity in terms of our livelihood, whether you're a full-time job worker, 8 to 5 worker, or you're an entrepreneur or business people. This pandemic has able, ladies and gentlemen, for us to be able to adapt to this, changing environment. So the next wave of digital transformation, mainly, ladies and gentlemen, of course, will come from what is happening in terms of technologies, in terms of these platforms that are available to us. So, ladies and gentlemen, why do we say that the pandemic is a great accelerator? Simply because it has transformed the way we live, it has transformed the way we do business, the way we interact, the way we deal with a lot of things. So here are some data, ladies and gentlemen, that we can show you how our lives have been transformed by this pandemic, so that you will know where did we come, or where is the principle of 3.0, EdPlan 3.0 came from. You have to understand that, of course, EdPlan 3.0 is a better version coming from the EdPlan 2.0. It just means that it's a notch higher. All right, this is way, way better, way easier, more rewarding, and the compensation, of course, is better compared to the EdPlan 2.0. But the thing is, how are you going to maximize this new program? This is what we call the new plan, or it is a plan within a plan. It is a program within a program, and we want you to know, where did this originate? Where did this idea come from? And if we study what has happened over the last 2.5 years, there's a great transformation of what is happening in terms of how we conduct our business, not only network marketing, but in the whole industry. Whether what kind of field you are in, all our lives have changed because of this transformation, because of this pandemic, because of this acceleration. Pre-pandemic, ladies and gentlemen, a lot of people, average people spends about 12 hours per day. They spend that time online, whether it's watching YouTube, watching Netflix, or browsing in Facebook or other platforms. But during the pandemic times, guess what? It increased to 18 hours per day. So from 12 hours a day, an average guy spent 18 hours per day during the pandemic. So there was an increase in the consumption, particularly, ladies and gentlemen, number one, in terms of our work. There was a rise of unemployment, but at the same time, there was also a rise of what we call remote working. 20 times increase in Zoom daily participants since the start of pandemic. This is the statistics, this is the data the data is showing us that this is the behavior a lot of people, a lot of businesses all over the world. Of course, there was retrenchment. People got fired from their jobs, but at the same time, there were people who were able to adapt to this kind of new environment brought by this pandemic. There was a 20 times increase in Zoom daily meetings since the start of pandemic. So those are the things that have changed, all right, for the last few years since the start of the pandemic. The way people were learning, there was an increase in remote learning. Like, of course, all over the world, there was no, what do you call this? Physical way of learning, like going to the brick and mortar, going to the school and learning from the professor, from the teacher and everything. Everything because of some restrictions, because of quarantine, because of this, some kind of lockdown. All right. A lot of people have learned, or in terms of learning, they maximized what we call remote learning. In fact, we are all part of this, especially those, participants of the R2S programs here. You know for a fact that even if you are not attending trainings like the olden days, going to the RCs, physically attending the trainers, this time we've launched some kind of platforms where we can continuously train our distributors all over the world. And partly, this is the R2S program where we have, a schedule of trainers from here in the Philippines giving out trainings there. And this is what we call remote learning. We don't necessarily need to go there physically, or you don't necessarily need to go to our RCs or seminar halls. But at the same time, at the convenience of your home, at the comfort of your home, through your laptop, through your gadgets, you can actually learn. And statistics show that corporate e-learning market value before the pandemic, it was only about $14.2 billion. But during the pandemic and beyond, they are still anticipating until 2026, there's going to be about 50 billion, all right, dollars in terms of e-learning market value. Even my children, they are my eldest. She actually graduated last year, and she graduated from college. Her last year in college was actually spent learning from home. And that is remote learning. She doesn't need to go to the school to earn her diploma. She learned, she finished 1 year, she finished 1.5 years of studying basically by staying home. All right? And communication and information, there was a rapid shift in virtual consumption. Pre-pandemic, there was an average all over the world. In 2013, people spent about 200 million minutes in Zoom annually. But during the pandemic, especially in 2020, ladies and gentlemen, there was 3.3 trillion minutes. All right, can you imagine the consumption in terms of using of Facebook and using of Zoom, and people engaging via Zoom, people conducting their meetings, people conducting their talks, their training and everything via Zoom? There was about 3.3 trillion minutes spent, all right, in virtual consumption. In terms of virtual consumption, of course, one of the businesses that actually boomed, that's actually increased during the pandemic, is the delivery and logistics business. There was an increase in online deliveries. Online food delivery revenue pre-pandemic, there was $91 billion global industry. Ladies and gentlemen, it almost doubled during the pandemic, because most of the time, like me, I've experienced, especially during the pandemic lockdown and during a lot of restrictions here in the Philippines, I just place my order online and they just deliver it here in my place. I don't need to go to the restaurant anymore. I don't need to go to drive-through anymore. They just, deliver our food here. And basically that is because of the effective delivery and logistics systems of these restaurants, all right, or their third-party courier services. There was an increase, of course, of shopping and consumption, surge in e-commerce, larger basket, reduced shopping frequency, and increase in e-commerce revenue. There was a change in our lifestyle. Our office became our home actually became our office. There was a surge in online consumption. And of course, all family members are nesting at home. Home becomes the new coffee shop, the new restaurant, and home became a new entertainment center. That is how this pandemic actually changed us. All right. And I've experienced, of course, working at home, setting up my studio here in my place, buying all this, lighting, table, computer chair, and everything, computer table, for me to be able to set up this office in my home, in my place, because, we started working from home, especially during the onset of COVID-19, where people are so much afraid because of the anxiety brought by the fear of the unknown. We did not know so much anything about COVID last 2019. All right, we hadn't a lot of we haven't gotten enough information how to deal with that, and so a lot of people just stayed home in the fear that when they go out they'll get exposed and everything. So there was a shift from working from the office to really working at home. Play and entertainment, the preference in digital space, power to control. We know for a fact that there was a lot of platforms aside from Netflix that really came out, especially, for example, this Disney Plus. What Netflix achieved for the last 7 years, Disney Plus during the pandemic, they did it in 5 months. All right, because of course, when you're staying home, you want to be entertained, you get bored, and a lot of people actually gained weight because they're always hungry, apparently, when they're home. But the truth is, they are just bored. All right, and a lot of people became conscious in terms of their health, well-being, and of course, they focus on health and hygiene. Monthly year-over-year growth of organic produce in US increased by 10 times in March compared with January and February 2021. Now, why we are telling you these things? Because we want to show you there was a great change in terms of the behavior of a lot of people all over the world. There was a great change on how businesses, conduct their operations all over the world because of this pandemic. There was a big change in how people, businesses, industries adapted to this digital acceleration, to this digital transformation. And if we want to, be a part of what's going to happen in the future, if we want to take this up, if you want to make this opportunity, if you want to convert what's happening to a great opportunity, then we might as well be able to also adapt to this changing landscape, how people are behaving, how the industries all over the world are changing and adapting to this new kind of doing business. Again, because this pandemic accelerated everything, especially in terms of technology. All right. So now, ladies and gentlemen, you will see that there is a great transformation in terms digitally speaking. And of course, a lot of businesses, a lot of people, they adapted, all right, to this kind of environment, to this kind of change. And there was a digital acceleration that happened. We have to become a part of this transformation, because if we do not adapt, if we do not transform, if we do not, modify the way we conduct business that will suit what is happening, then we will become obsolete. We will just wake up one day to a world that no longer exists. And we don't want that to happen. So that's why we in the company, we've researched a lot. We've, gathered a lot of our data in terms of our IT, in terms of our infrastructure. We've studied a lot on how we can maximize, ladies and gentlemen, this kind of changes that are happening all over the world. And if you can see, all right, the different economies that this transformation, that this adaptation, that this acceleration has created. There was different economies that have been created, especially with the development and advancement of different platforms, especially the social network, especially this, social network platforms that we've been using. There was a great, different, brand new kinds of economies that were created. Number one, the attention economy. Ladies and gentlemen, this is a kind of economy that is created simply because these platforms, these social network platforms are able to catch the attention of their viewers or their users. Because, ladies and gentlemen, if Facebook, TikTok, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, uh, a lot of things, Snapchat, can take or can catch our attention, ladies and gentlemen, it can create revenue, because if they can catch the attention of their users, they can catch the attention of their viewers, then they can advertise some things, a lot of products for you as potential buyers. And nowadays, a lot of people are competing. Simply, they want to get the attention of their users. Simply, they want to catch the attention of, their viewers. And this is called attention economy. This is what you see mostly. If you're a Facebook user, you can mostly see this, that a lot of advertising, a lot of individuals, a lot of businesses are catching your attention. Whether it's about information, whether it's about something new, whether it's about entertaining, their goal is to catch your attention, because if they are able to catch your attention, you will have probable engagement with them. And when there is engagement, guess what? Sales follow after that. So there is an economy being created simply because of this attention. Another economy that is being created is what we call the creator economy. The kind of content, all right, that is being posted in these social media platforms. All right. So that's why there is a new branding of these people who are able to create a really good content. They are called content creators. They are, are able to create contents that are entertaining, informative, or simply can catch your attention and everything. And there's a great economy. There is a big economy being created simply because their viewers, their users are very interested in their creation, in their content. All right, like me, for example, I always like some posts or some what I call this content that is engaged in marketing, that it's engaged in nature. I always, I always read some posts, some information about marketing, because that is my line of business. That is my line of work. So, in terms of creation, in terms of content, there's a lot of good creators out there that can actually catch the attention of the users, and that can actually catch the attention of their viewers. But more importantly, ladies and gentlemen, a very unique economy has been created by all these things, by what we call a data economy. This is a billion-dollar economy. That is why there is what we call data mining of some, platforms, some social media networks, social media platforms, because they are collecting data from their users, and not probably, this is surely they are able to collect the data, and then they sell it to different third parties, so for advertising. And this data is very, very important. Data nowadays, ladies and gentlemen, is power. This is power. That's why Facebook, ladies and gentlemen, is so powerful, because they are able to gather a lot of data from their users, and they are able to share this data to third-party applications or apps, third parties, and they're able to sell it, so that, these third parties can be able to target the right market, the right customer, the right user, simply because of the data that was collected by Facebook. And ladies and gentlemen, how powerful is this data? Probably you've heard this, like a couple of days ago, the founder of Facebook, Mr. Mark Zuckerberg, has lost about 29 billion in his worth, simply because Facebook plummeted. Because number one, a lot of people, a lot of users dropped Facebook and they switched to TikTok. So in other words, a lot of people left Facebook and they switched to TikTok. That in itself, because people are switching, okay, from Facebook to TikTok, the market capitalization of Facebook actually dropped. by 26%, which is equivalent to 290 billion. And that cost Mr. Zuckerberg $20 billion in his pocket. Another thing why Facebook plummeted, simply because Apple, our smartphone, Apple as a company, all right, restricted, all right? They have what we call the application tracking transparency, ATT. If you're an Apple user, an iOS user, if you're an iPhone user, when you are trying to open an application, there is now a pop-up, all right, that needs your permission if you want to cross applications, if you want to use different applications. Because the truth is, when you use different applications, guess what? Facebook shares your data, what they know about you, what's your habit, what are your likes and dislikes, what the articles you read, what's your demographic and everything. They share this data to different third-party apps, and they make money from it. Now, Apple restricted that already. They have restricted the ability of Facebook to be able to share our data to different people, because this data is actually revenue and money for Facebook. So that's how data is very, very powerful. And guess what? AIM Global, for 16 years now, we have our own data. We know how our distributors behave in terms of conducting their businesses. We know how many distributors have signed up for a single head, and then after so many weeks, how many weeks they would add account to become 3 accounts, 7 accounts, and 15 accounts. We have that kind of data. We have the data where, you know, how much money a distributor make during his 3rd month, 4th month, 5th month, or 1 year. We have the data that shows, you know, what's the behavior of newcomer, the newly signed up people. How many, in our statistics, in our data, how many people actually sign up for 15 heads right away versus how many people signs up for 3 heads on the onset, and initially they just add account in the process. We know how many of those people become successful and not. We have the data of attrition, retention. We have the data how much our leaders are making after 10 years, 5 years, 16 years, everything. And we base our direction, ladies and gentlemen, our decision by referring to this database, because that is our history, because that is what we call our track record. So what I want you to understand is, we did not simply come up with this 3.0 thing. It is actually everything that you will see from me for the next few minutes are all based and backed up by what our data is showing us. And this data, ladies and gentlemen, again, is very valuable for us because it shows the behavior of our leaders in terms of how they are conducting their businesses, how much they're making, what product do they, you know, is their favorite, what, you know, product is the biggest or most saleable product, what is the slow-moving product. For example, in Abuja, what is, you know, the best-selling product after C24/7? Let's say in Uyo, we know how much products we are moving there, where it's Restore Life, Colidurs, or wherever. We all have this data. I mean, what's your favorite product, all right? Which moves faster in Nigeria? Is it the packages or the individual products? We all have this data all over the world in terms of our operation. And it is where we base our innovation, our project, our program, and our plan. And ladies and gentlemen, bottom line, again, this 3.0 that you will be you know, experiencing, that we will be launching very soon, are all backed up by data.